Now, I get lots of requests for flies, and I get one just through the night actually from a gentleman in New Zealand, and he asked if I could tie a lacewing moth fly. Now, I have had a quick look at the fly. We don't get these here. It's a terrestrial fly. As far as I believe, it gets blown onto the river, and the fish obviously feed on them. But it's very Caddis like, so I've got a Caddis pattern that may work or may do for it. And this is the fly here, the style of it. It's just basically a split wing deer hair. Hopefully close to the colour of what I could see in the photographs of the fly. It's got a kind of delta type wing. The wings sit well apart, and it's basically, they call it's very like a moth. If you do a search online and put in Lacewing Moth fly, you'll see some photographs of the fly. Now, this is my take on it. I hope it's okay. I mean, if the colours are wrong, obviously you can change it to suit yourself. Now, I've tried to keep the materials as simple as possible. There is one or two other flies I could have used. I could use the Lacewing Caddis that I like to use, small flies and use deer hair, but I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. As you see, it's not a lot to it. It's tied with pheasant tail, deer hair. I'm using Opossum for a dubbing, which can be bought down in New Zealand, Australia and these places, so it's materials they can easily obtain. Now, the hook, the sizes of this fly is between a 16 and a 20, so this is the hook I'm going to be using. It's a size 16, it's a full and bill. It's called the Ultimate Dry. In this case it's black nickel. Nice hook. Thread I'm going to be using, this is the uni thread in Rusty Dun. Just going to wax through to get it started. Start just a mil or so from the eye and remove the waste. As I can wind down, on the way down I'm going to save a wee bit of bulk by tying in the rib. Just using a very fine copper wire. So tie that on the way down. Yeah, I'm using a dark pheasant tail. This is melanistic. It's just a black pheasant. It's a ringneck pheasant. Some of them you get are quite dark, so I'm using that for the body and for the thorax cover and legs, believe it or not. So for the body, I'm just going to pull out some of the fibres. Tips will line up. If you pull it 90 degrees from the stem, they should line up. Catch this in near the root of the fibre and pull it into the tips, and then wind up this point here. Now I'm going to wind the pheasant tail the opposite way I wind my rib on and my thread. It's the weakest fibre in the body, so you've got to protect it, and this is the best way. So if we wind up to about, leave at least a third of the shank for the thorax and the wing. To tie off, we come across the pheasant tail with a turn and then a turn onto the hook. Do the same again, and that should be enough. Trim away the waste. Bring my rib up, which is going to protect the pheasant tail fibre. About 4 or 5 times. Just going to tie off here. 3 or 4 turns in, and keep the thread tight, bend and break away the wire. Got wax on my thread. I usually run it through once and then rub it with my finger, take away any excess. Now for the thorax cover, I'm going to use the same pheasant tail. So I'm going to bring out at least 10 fibres. It seems a lot, but I'm going to use these as legs as well. Same way we brought out the pheasant tail, 90 degrees from the stem, you'll find the tips will line up. I'm just going to tie this forward. I use these for legs, so I'm just going to tie this on the top, 2 or 3 turns, and then I'm just going to bring out the pheasant tail fibre, push it towards the back, if you can see like that, so and evenly split the fibre, just to give the impression of legs, but I'm basically tucking back the pheasant tail, which will strengthen it, stops it pulling out. 2 or 3 turns to secure them, because when we come over you'll see how it lifts and separates the fibres. I do this with a lot of nymph patterns, so it's a bit of fun to do, add it onto this fly, and it'll not do any harm. The deer hair, I'm using a Roe Deer. This is the deer hair fibre here. just a natural roe deer with a nice brown and tan tips. So I'm going to bring enough out to form the wing. The right and left side, we're going to split it using the deer here, the pheasant tail, sorry. So we bring it out, cut it close to the skin, open the fibres out the cut end side, and remove any underfur. See this fine fluff you may see in the finger there? That there, you've got to remove that if you're going to, I'm going to stack it, you see. If you don't do that, it tends not to stack too well. To stack it, what we have to do is put it into our hair stacker, tips first, then tap it on our desk. And before we tie it in, we must make sure there's wax on our thread. It gives you all the grip you need. There's our deer hair, it's stacked up, tips are lined up, and then remove it from the stacker. Removing it the same way you tie it in, there's more chance of it staying together. So slightly by the bend of the hook into my finger thumb, that's the wing. Now I'm going to trim this. Now the deer here is very bulky, so I trim it and I tie it so that I've left at least a head length there, as you can see. So I've got room to tie off. Don't want it too close to the eye. We can tidy this up with some dubbing, so don't worry about any wee ends. So we can come down, come back up at this point, just making sure we've got the base of thread down. See where we are. The legs are there with the pheasant tail. But what we're going to do before we put the dubbing on the thorax, I'll just show you. We're going to split the deer hair evenly down either side. Just make it so it's spread out like a fanned out, just like that. And we're going to bring through our pheasant tail just to see how it's going to sit. So if we pull that, just fans the wing out slightly, and the lacewing, the wings, not like the Caddis, it's more like spread delta wing sort of thing. It's quite an unusual wing. So should give that impression. Now what I'm going to do then now is to take the thread down when I'm happy with that. Take the thread down to the eye. Got some possum, tan coloured possum. Now possum's a great dubbing, it's great for wings as well. It floats, I mean you use it a lot in dry flies. You gink it up or whatever you use to float your fly, you'll find it tends to float really well, dries quick. So the way I like to put a dubbing on, for instance, you could spin this on, but I'm putting the dubbing on, is to basically put the dubbing on the thread and wind up and back down through with the thread, to which basically ribs it, protects it. And don't be shy. So we dub it on, and then we work, as I say, work our way up. Just tightening when we need to. As I say, I'm going to work my way through, back down, tight, leave, you've got a headroom there, just before you get to the bottom of the thorax there. As I say, I've always kept that quite open, not bulking up that head area. 3 or 4 turns in, and that's us basically tie it, got my dubbing on. Now what I'm going to do is get a bit of velcro. You hold your wing, everything out of the way, because you could damage it with the velcro. I'm going to brush out the possum. Just brush it out, and then we're going to bring through our pheasant tail and tie off at the front. Now I'm just going to show you what it looks like in the top. Just hold it nice and tight. Now what I like to do, again, make sure there's wax on your thread. There's just a turn or two there, right? I can fold this back. It'll not pull out. I've left myself plenty of room for a head. Then keeping the thread tight and ignoring the waist at this point, just go straight in and whip finish. Just take your time. Just going to build up the head a wee bit with the thread. Nice and tight. Just put your nail on the side of the hook. Now don't be shy with the head, you need to tie the materials in. So then what we do is get right in there and trim away the waste. And there we go. Just going to bring out some of the possum underneath. And all we have to do is just a bit of varnish onto the head. Take your time. Don't worry about filling the eye out. So putting some varnish into the eye, we can always clean it out. And then, as I say, clean the eye out if there's any in there, which there are. So I'm just going to use a piece of wire, the copper wire I was using for the rib. I'm just going to put it through the eye. And there we go. So I hope that is something worth trying. As I say, you could use the deer here you want. It spreads nice. It's got a nice V shape in it, like a kind of delta type wing. You could use, instead of using deer here, if you want, you could use CDC or a mix of both. It's entirely up to yourself. You could use CDC if you want near the front. There's one just to give you an idea. This is CDC in the front. It's the same sort of colour as the possum. Again, you can just gink that up. It'll obviously help float. You can mess about with it. This is one of the one I would probably try, but it's like anything, you've got to be on the water just to see what the fish would like. They tend to, you can work around the materials you have. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and that's my take on the Lacewing Moth, and I hope you enjoyed that.